Still not insane.
We will be talking about situationships.
I feel a little under-prepped in this whole area.
I think it's better to be underprepared.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah. Situationships have become a lot more common.
Check out the local produce until we find the best possible option.
A lot of them have been influenced due to social media and due to these platforms. So,
I'm just exploring it. I have no idea what's actually going on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the second episode of Open Mind Safe Spaces, where today we are going to be talking about relationships and situationships, and we are joined by our esteemed guests, some of whom you would have already met in episode 1. If you haven't got that already, the link is going to be down in the description. Without any further ado, let's get right into it.
Still not insane.
That's all right. I think welcome back, guys, to the second episode. We have
Jonathan?
Manvi.
Aditi.
and for the first time, can we have a huge round of applause for them, guys? Great. All right. In today's episode, we will be talking about situationships. Background mein, ooh, and relationships. Ooh. Right. It is a spooky, it's a scary topic, I think, in current scenarios as well as the trends that are currently going on. But let's dive right into it and see how the current trends are. Where we will talk about relationships and situationships this time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about? Oh, I already see like different. I see 3 different emotions behind that. Let's start off with a quick feeling check of how do you feel about this topic.
It's just the entire spectrum of human emotion. Yeah. Like excited, terrified.
I feel a little under-prepped in this whole area, but you know what? I think we'll be fine.
I think it's better to be underprepared.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah.
So I feel confused. I'm like, let's see what this is about and what questions are going to be. So let's see.
Oh, great. Well, I mean, I have a bunch of questions ready. I would love to hear from you to kind of understand what today's current trends are with respect to relationships. Because I think with the younger generations, situationships have become a lot more common. Do we know why that may be the case?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's an epidemic now, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. Yeah, I think it's just become increasingly more popular with the rise of dating apps, in my opinion. We look at human beings as commodities and see and kind of navigate the playing field, check out the local produce until we find the best possible option and try and like maximize utility. But yeah, that's not the way we should be looking at human beings, ideally. I actually wrote a paper on this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I wrote a diss track about this.
Oh.
No, diss being dissertation. But yeah, it kind of explored the rise of situationships. And it was on a college campus, so I had a very abundant sample actually. And yeah, no, I think it's definitely become more popular. I can't pinpoint exactly why though. I just think in our current socio-cultural milieu, it's just relationship formats are evolving, but that happens with every generation. So it's normal, I think.
Right, I think with every generation there has been a change, but we do see right now situationships is not as romanticized as much because everybody is a little bit more fearful to step into the game of dating or finding the local produce, as you said, because they don't know how it may lead and end. I think given social media also having a lot of influence on it, kind of messes the way that we perceive relationship. But again, on the same context of why the current generation is a lot more inclined towards it, or why does it just simply happen? More on that.
I mean, I'm not sure about this because I've only seen it from an external perspective, situationships in general. But I think it really boils down to conflicting expectations, and when no one's able to express those expectations well, and everyone's willing to, somewhat compromise in what they want and expect from each other, and, just to be in a relationship because the relationship has been such a highlight of, just society in general, just everything seems to be telling you that you need to get into a relationship. And I think when that message is reinforced again and again, and again you're willing to compromise to get into one, to be in one, to have that form of affection from somewhere at least, you end up compromising, and that's how you get a situationship, just from like what I've seen.
I think a lot of people are also very averse to commitment nowadays. So a situationship exists in the liminal space between casual and committed. So you can reap all the benefits of a committed relationship but have none of the responsibility.
So why is that people are not as keen towards being in a committed relationship or even wanting to be committed?
Why? I don't really know. But then there is something that I feel has had a lot of influence on especially the adolescents and the um, teenage group especially. And I think it's the movies, it's the OTT platforms. So usually this is a growing period. And okay, let's talk about like teenage group, okay, under 20s and not above 20s. We'll see that. I think we'll discuss that a little later. But then under 20s, I think there are a lot of emotional changes that happens, and that's a time of exploration of self. Like who am I? And there is also an exploration of the identity. But in that, there are going to be ups and downs. Okay, during downs, if you use a movie or anything on the media to cope, to soothe yourself or cope yourself, or you see on a platform like, oh, this is in a movie, like, oh, this is me, this is something that has happened with me. You just relate with it. You feel, oh, this is a something that has happened with me. And then what is it that the movie shows? Maybe something that can also come in their behavior, especially for the people again under 20s. So they don't really rationalize things, or they don't really understand what they're feeling. It's just that, oh, it happened in the movie, this is what something that is happening with me. Maybe I should do this as well. This is my coping method. Oh, this is me. So I think that is where a lot of them have been influenced due to social media and due to these platforms. So yeah.
I think sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it's also because that overarching narrative of exploring yourself comes with this idea of, if you're exploring, there's no responsibility along with it. So it's all just, oh yeah, I'm just exploring it. I have no idea what's actually going on. I'm just in this and I'm having these feelings and no one's actually saying anything. But I think that overarching narrative of the teenage years are just for exploring, for not having that sort of permanent identity and sense. It's just,
Right. But we do see that situationships are a lot more common with adults at the moment. Right? Like how you mentioned, we don't want to be as committed as another person would be. But the entire concept of situationship is the fact that one person is committed while the other person is not. Right? So one person wants the relationship a lot. And like you mentioned, they want to work towards making sure that the other partner is also on the same page. While the other partner is on that, of that mindset that, what, I am not ready to settle yet, or I'm not ready to commit yet. Probably, like you mentioned, don't want that responsibility. And like you also, rightly mentioned that we tend to romanticize everything that we see on social media because there's no framework for how you need to love a person, right? Which makes it experimental in the first days, where again people either cling on to the point of, I still need to explore, I still need to make sure that I have all my options looked at before I can get into it. But then that changes how love actually is going to be shown and protected. Like if you look at traditional love, so how do you view traditional love compared to, say, a situationship?
Something that I have observed, again, the people that you mentioned about 20s, they have had some or the other such problems or such experiences that has made this view for themselves. This is what I have observed. Again, it's subjective. They may be not. Okay, but this is among the people that I know, among the people that I have saw. Those people who didn't really experience anything bad or anything that has you know for example, they hurt their feelings. Okay, those people are very easy to commit after 20s. Like I have saw these people, they have healthy relationships, they have healthy marriages. So this is something that's again my observation. So yeah.
I think it's good that we explore new relationship dynamics rather than because traditional love to me looks like heterosexual monogamous relationships. So it's good that we explore new types of relationship dynamics and there's a term in economics for it, I think, creative destruction. Like see what works and like also create new types of relationship dynamics that might be better. However, infamously, situationships don't seem to work, at least the way we're going about it right now, simply because usually what happens is that one person desires a committed relationship or has like a covert desire for this, but the other person wants to keep it more casual. But then they end up agreeing to a situationship because they believe that something is better than nothing and they'd rather keep the person than let them go. So usually, I'm not saying all the time, but what seems to happen in a situationship is that one person is unhappy and the other is perfectly content with the arrangement as it is. It would be different if both people agreed to the format the way it was. That could be a situationship which works. But then again, I feel like it's biological to get attached. If you're spending time with a person that much, like your brain will release oxytocin, and on some level, you will get attached.
Love your point where you brought up heterosexual and monogamous relationships, because we do have frameworks for what a relationship should be. We do have these ideas of, oh, there's this one person that you fall in love with, that you spend your entire life with, that, is the perfect relationship, you get all your needs met. And I think there's the fear that comes from, committing fully is because there are so many expectations you put on romantic relationships. And I think both ways that you can look at this is we do have to consider the narratives that we do weave around our relationships, especially romantic relationships, and the priority we give them. And I think that adds to a lot of like the stress and the pressure that we do attach to these, and like the drive that we have.
Like you absolutely mentioned, the framework comes in where we read somebody, but we don't know who and to what levels, makes us get attached. I think attachment theory in itself, if we were to talk about, there's a lot that we can discuss, a lot that we can cover, but there is going to be a tendency that we are going to find somebody compatible, right? The thing about love again, or situationships as well as relationships, like you mentioned, is the fact that in the initial days, irrespective of what it is love. Only when it does not work out is where the narrative completely changes. So this is toxic, this is not love. Narcissistic views, or those terms being very loosely used. Yes, there are going to be a lot of individuals who are going to be going through it, but I think understanding yourself first, identifying your needs that you mentioned, if you are a lot more aware about it, it becomes easier to love. So if we were to now discuss a little bit again, keeping sure that working towards more interventions, or talking about how individually we would like to come up with strategies that would allow us to find love better, or be able to love ourselves first before we can love others. I think those interventions we can talk about in the coming episode, to make sure that once people have understood the entire concept of situationship as well as relationship, we have something else to discuss about, and keeping the viewers a little bit more hooked on to the next episode, to look out for episode 3, where we'll be discussing more about the different interventions regarding the same. All right, welcome back to segment 2, where we will be looking at a few reels, again giving your expert opinions about it, see how you feel, and quickly reacting to them.
Okay.
Super.
एक होता है परस्यूअर जो रिलेशनशिप में परस्यू करता है चीज़ों का, पार्टनर्स लड़ाई कर लिए, ओके, तो एक पार्टनर होता है कि यार मुझे अभी बात करनी है और अभी सॉल्व करना है तभी हम सोएंगे, और एक होता है डिस्टेंसर कि यार अभी मेरा दिमाग मत खाओ, कल सुबह बात कर लेंगे.
More so, I would say, when it comes to me being angry or sad, I need isolation.
Dispenser.
100%.
All right. I think when it comes to the words of it, I think in psychology we have other words in terms of attachment styles, in terms of conflict resolution. Do you know what the terms distancer and pursuer would instead mean or sound like in our terms?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think if we were looking at it from, the attachment theory point of view,
Right.
we have 1 secure
Mm-hmm.
and then 3 insecure, the anxious type of cells. We have the disorganized, we have the avoidant, and the name of the third is slipping me right now.
Disorganized.
No, disorganized,
So there's
avoidant.
disorganized, anxious, avoidant, and secure. Set of 4 types. So there's fearful, avoidant.
Anxious-
So different
yeah.
school of thoughts
The
around the
avoidant
same
types,
one.
yes.
Yes.
But yeah, the distancer definitely sounds like the avoidant type, where one is pursuing, and the avoidant tends to get anxious
Right.
when they do encounter this, and they tend to take a little bit of distance from them.
I think isolation here is more of a heavier term
Yeah.
used for it, but I think meaning the same thing.
I think it's okay to take some space after an argument, process your emotions on your own, as long as you've communicated that to your partner, though. Like, it'd be very sad if he's doing this and Katrina's like, let's solve this. And he's like, no, leave me alone. But as long as that is communicated to her and she's aware of that, that's okay. That's completely fine, I think.
I think the term there would be more stonewalling than taking distance. Yeah, because I mean, there is a way to healthily communicate that, okay, you know what, I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a lot of things. And I think I need a little time to process that. But the other extreme is just like, I'm not talking. I just can't.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Manvi. And apart from that, like adding on to that, I think there can be instances where you have other stressors going on in your head, right? That may and it would be difficult for you to confront or have a conversation that may or may not lead to a fight. So some do that, some do avoid talking it, and some do like, oh no, I need to talk about it right now. But then again, as Manvi said, if it is being communicated later on or sometime else, so that's, I think that's better. Until and unless it's just being avoidance, like the avoidance is for I don't know, days or weeks. So that is something that is unhealthy.
Correct. I think the point that he said that because he is angry is why he would want that space, again, wouldn't put him in the avoidant category of it, because they just don't want to address it at all.
Yes.
But it is absolutely healthy to take space.
Yeah.
Now, what we tend to tell with couples who come from both extremes of I want to talk right now to I need space is, hey, come to a middle ground. If you need right now, you need 30 minutes, let's come to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's essentially very important for your emotions to not take charge of that moment, but rather you're regulating first and then getting to it. So I completely forgot that he's married to Katrina. I'm like, I'm like, right. Sorry, I'm still stuck with Salman Khan.
That was aeons ago. In the times of yonder. That's they've been married for
Exactly.
a minute now.
This just took me a minute to be like, huh? I'm like, wow, reality check. But I think that's a good approach to take with. But I think as long as it's communicated between the partners and they're both okay with it, super.
She, for example, used to speak in a very loud tone. And I think because of my father's tone, growing up, always kind of rattled. So she really made efforts to kind of change. Here I was scared of my dad. He never shouted at us, he never raised his hand, but just because around us his temperament was so volatile that it always scared me. So anybody who speaks in a louder tone from childhood, it started disturbing of fights, where I've spent most of my childhood on the staircases hearing them fight. So I was always a little scared, and I was always on the edge.
Right, okay. I think very different shift to now childhood experiences definitely influencing the way that you respond in a romantic relationship.
100%. I think if we bring it back again to attachment theory, our first attachments, and they really model how we approach our needs and our desires for a very long time. And I think really having that kind of secure attachment is so important as in your infancy and your childhood.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I completely agree with him here. I was fully prepared to say I despise this man. But I think that's very valid, considering the fact that he has grown up hearing his dad yell at people that he would want his partner right now to like speak in a calmer tone or speak in a less loud tone. I think that's completely valid. However, I've seen the later part of this clip though, where he basically disses on therapy and he says, I don't need therapy because
Spoiler alert.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a form of manipulation.
Right, I've heard
That
that.
part I don't agree with.
That's what we started out.
Okay, fair enough. Because I had opinions about that. I was prepared for it because I think the people who need therapy the most are the most averse to it. But I completely agree with him here. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I agree with him as well. But agreeing with you too, both. I think, yeah, the childhood experiences definitely do, especially like, for example, when it comes to confrontation, when it comes to, again, the reel that we saw previously during when it's a conflict, how is it that you're going to resolve it? So during times like these, I think when childhood experiences have shaped your responses, so that can definitely be a barrier to your conflict resolution. So yeah.
Absolutely. Like all of y'all mentioned, everybody comes with their own set of baggage. Doesn't mean that we, use it in the romantic relationship that, hey, you know what, this is my problem and you need to deal with it. I think there needs to be A, communication, B, also personal work to deal with the kind of concerns that they have been in their childhood, because you can't expect another person to now help you fix those wounds that somebody else may have hurted. So I think it goes hand in hand, and that's what a romantic relationship is going to be, where it's a collaborative approach, and that's what we foster when people or when clients or couples do come together. And when they have these interpersonal conflicts, it's like it's not you versus him or her versus her, or however, it's you as a unit that needs to put down the fire together. And then as long as it's communicated, accepted, and your personal work is also done, definitely your partner will empathize with you and will provide you with that space, and also be like, okay, you know what, I need to also calm down. But if you don't give any logic and you shout because they're shouting, or you get, avoidant, or you want to take that space without addressing it, I think then that becomes.
I think which is also why therapy is a lot more required. Not agreeing with him to the rest part of
The later
part of the podcast. So yeah.
I also love, the fact that in relationships and these dynamics, these cycles that happen, it's not, we tend to think of it as one person's problem, one person's fault, but its behavior influences each other, and they have this kind of cyclical influence on one behavior causing another. And to separate that from those cycles of blame is so important.
Absolutely.
What is the secret, I would say, to having a marriage of equals? Because obviously that is what you've been able to achieve.
One is, I always treated my husband the way, probably different than most women, because I tell Murthy, suppose he's doing something which according to me is not correct. Suppose he's making a decision which is according to me is not correct. So I tell him, Murthy, as a friend, it is my duty to advise when it is not correct. I'm advising you not to do. As a wife, I will tell you this is not correct, because it's the duty of a wife to tell. However, the final decision is with you. I always felt, that everybody has their own, however close you are, still there is something which you want to do only yourself.
Yeah.
Not that every time your husband or wife should be next to you. No. And don't give too much opinion.
All right. I think very, very wise words spoken there. But let's hear from you first.
I think that was a very good example of what effective dependency can look like. Like they rely on each other for advice, and they would probably take it and, have that kind of communication, but they still hold that space for, in the end, it is your decision. And I love that kind of dynamic.
Yeah, I think that's quite a healthy approach, honestly. The secret to an egalitarian marriage or even friendship, like she mentioned, they seem to be friends first before partners, because she said, as a friend, I would advise you not to do this, and as your partner, I would advise you not to do this. But in the end, the final decision is up to you, which is very healthy, because if she explicitly told him what to do and said, no, you have to do this, that creates an imbalanced power dynamic.
Mm-hmm. I think that this is to be assertive, and I think this approach works in, I think, every relationship, not just a romantic relationship. and to have that sense of individuality to make those decisions by yourselves. Not just romantic relationship. Yes, it's very much important, but that at the same time, I think it works in every other relationship and friendships as well. So yeah.
Like absolutely, like the example that she gave was more about respect. I think one of the values that was there. The other one was also like, hey, you know what, you are your own individual. I am there as a support. Like a lot of times, like you mentioned, that dependency comes into the picture, that you need to breathe for me, be for me, which at times is all right. But when it comes to, I think, because they're also friends, they're working together, they're in the same company, so there's that level of professionalism, plus there is also this personal element of, hey, you know what, there is space for both of them to say no to each other. I think that stops a lot of people pleasing that happens in relationships, where even if we do not want to do something, we do it for the other person, and we do it with a very conscious mind. If it does not work, we're like, see, I did it because you asked me to, and things like that. So that definitely plays on a lot of power dynamic, plus them finding it very difficult to even communicate. So even if she's hears a no, she's secure enough to be like, hey, you know what, I'm okay with it, because at the end of the day, it's your decision, but it is my duty in order for me to advise you. So
I think it's also easier to take advice when it's not an attack on your autonomy.
right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, can I ad-lib off of what you said? As the kids say these days. No, but it's good that she expressed her opinion, at least, rather than, because I feel like a lot of people feel pressure in partnerships to be like, yes, hubby, as you should, even if you secretly don't agree. Because I think that would have created a lot of cognitive dissonance in her head. So it's good that she expressed her opinion, but like he said, gave him that autonomy to do what he wants.
So the team asked me to hold something, like the last time I had a mug without anything. They have the tree shout out to Jagodada. You can't say the word, his classic phrase, without kind of getting copyright things from. So I can't use it at the moment. Sorry. But thank you guys so much for joining. I think I forgot to introduce yourselves. Could we quickly have an introduction, please?
Hi, I'm Aditi.
I'm Manvi.
I'm Jonathan.
Thank you guys so much for joining in. I think today's conversation has been very, very interesting, and something that the audience can definitely relate to with the current trends that are going on with regards to relationship. But again, as it's a huge topic, I think today the major takeaways are with regards to attachment styles, as well as understanding how Bollywood celebrities' relationships are also not as on screen, but yet they're going through their own challenges. And I think that's very important to look at, because we only romanticize, oh wow, he's doing this or she's doing that. Do they have their own concerns? And the more that we are also able to see that they're human beings and they also go for therapy, it is more than important for us to also go through it. So quick closing statements as to what your takeaways from this particular conversation was. I'll say that again. If not, that's also all right. We've had a long conversation. We've reacted to reels. Do I have to just keep going like that?
It's an epidemic, succinct summary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right then. If there's nothing else to add, could we quickly give an outro so that the audience know what exactly to do? Like.
All right. Don't forget to like,
share,
and subscribe.
And stay tuned for the next episode, where we will definitely be continuing the conversation with a lot of different topics regarding relationships as well as situationships, and giving you all different tips as to how you can address concerns in your relationship. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you so much. I'll see you all again. Bye-bye.